Hello and welcome to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Make sure you find the Raptors Show wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe, and please rate and review the show. Reminder, we're streaming live on Sportsnet's YouTube channel and airing live on Sportsnet 360, Monday to Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. I'm your host, William Lou. I'm joined by producer and co-host Alex Wong. Happy Jays home opener day.
No, man, that's next Tuesday.
That's not today?
No.
Why am I seeing so many people at the Rogers
Lots of
Center?
media members are there for a media event today because they're unveiling all the. You've heard about the renovations.
Yes, I have.
You've heard about the new bars, the new restaurants, and all of that. So, pretty much every prominent media member in Toronto is down there today.
That's why I thought it was home opener. You know, honestly, this is how you know MLSE does not give us the talking points of the show because they would not have given us this. I'm sorry, Ed Rogers. I'm sorry, Mr. Rogers.
No, it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, the home opener is next Tuesday. But we're here to talk about the Toronto Raptors.
Do we have to?
Losing. I mean, we don't have to.
No,
you know
we
me.
have to. We have to. Man.
You know me.
It's the name of the show.
Oh, okay. The Toronto Raptors lost to the short-handed Boston Celtics yesterday. Celtics were without Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, Al Horford, and Peyton Pritchard. A little old school score, 97-93. Haven't seen one of those in a while.
Oh, yeah. No, this is a prime John Havlicek running dribble handoff.
Should have broadcast that game in black and white. Yeah, typical Raptors road game. They were trailing. Pascal led them on a run there in the third quarter, and Raptors fought back. The game was tied at 82 there in the fourth quarter, and then Malcolm Brogdon took over. Fred Pascal didn't deliver in crunch time, and the Raptors again let another winnable game in the fourth quarter slip away on the road, and they fall to 14-26 on the road, 40-40 at home. And based on all the results yesterday, most likely they will be in the 9-10 game next Wednesday at Scotiabank Arena against the Chicago Bulls. So that's where we're at, Will.
Yeah. No, yesterday's result was like as close to the worst possible you can have, sort of across the board. Yeah, I mean, I just think that's probably as bad as the Celtics will ever play. Like, with all due respect to that team, like, that they put out there last night, like, they did not make the most of their opportunities. Lots of guys had open threes and didn't knock those down. They shot 10 of 18 from free throws, which was also highly uncharacteristic for a team that is excellent on free throws. They turned the ball over a decent amount. Obviously, the Raptors played good defense to cause that, and I thought, in particular, OG Anunoby's defense on Jaylen Brown was really good. Watching it back on the film, he really was able to disrupt them a lot of the time and, catch them by surprise. I do wonder if they match up again, if Jaylen Brown plays again on Friday, because, again, the Celtics have very little to play for. They're pretty much locked into 2 here now.
Yeah, so the top 3 seeds in the East are now set.
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
So Milwaukee, Boston, Philly, that's set now.
So they probably will just, rest everybody. Or maybe they won't. Who knows, man? Maybe they just play one more game, right? You never really know. But I thought OG did good things to Jaylen Brown to disrupt him. Jaylen Brown had a very inefficient shooting night, 10 of 29. But, I mean, at the same time, the Raptors had just no way to punish them. It was wild just to see the Raptors offensively. I guess it's not that much of a surprise because we've seen it. But just to see them come up empty so many opportunities, it really even didn't matter how great defensively the Celtics would play because the Raptors just wouldn't capitalize on open looks. And, of course, you have to start with Fred VanVleet, who obviously has been, a topic of discussion for a lot of the season. Yes, his play has evened out with Jakob Poeltl in the lineup, but last night, this was very similar to the start of the season, right? 2 of 14 from the field, 1 of 12 from 3. You can say, okay, well, he had a last-second heat to end the second quarter, last-second heat to end the third quarter, last-second heat to end the fourth quarter. Fine, you take out those 3, right? Those are shots you have to take, whatever. 1 of 9 is still awful. And if he made 1 or 2 more threes, this could have been very different. And I just, I would love to be able to just search through all the episodes of the Raptor Show and look through where I have said some variation of if Fred had made 1 or 2 threes instead of going 1 of 9 or 1 of 10 or 1 of 11, right? And these are all things that have happened this year. This game would have been different. This season would have been different. You probably would have been in a different spot. This game reminded me of the Sixers game that they lost when Pascal, brought them to overtime. They had 2 wide open looks for Fred in that game. Very similar box score. This game reminds me of when they played against the Milwaukee Bucks in December. And of course, that game they shot 2 of 30 to start from the field. And, but whatever. Fred was part of that huge amount of inefficiency, and the Raptors couldn't make enough shots at the end. In fact, it was Scottie taking over and also Gary, exploding there at the last second there to force overtime where they lost. this was the edge that just wasn't there for them. And again, I highlighted this on the reaction podcast, but I just can't believe that between 37 minutes from Fred, 16 minutes from Gary, 14 minutes from Will Barton, those are your three guards that you played in the rotation last night. They combined for 7 points in 67 minutes. And obviously the majority of that is Fred, but to get no bench depth either is just like is just kind of unbelievable. Like the Raptors didn't need that much more to beat the Celtics last night. The Celtics were almost begging for you to take the game. They rested Jason Tatum, who was sitting on the sideline in a white T-shirt eating popcorn. This guy was straight chilling, man. That looked like me and you in the media room. Okay, all right. So he was chilling. Al Horford obviously is chilling. He's not playing back-to-backs. No need to do that for him. And they replaced him in the starting group with Sam Hauser and Mike Muscala. Now Mike Muscala hit a 3 late, but of course he was getting left open the whole time. But I mean, like, you got 15 combined points from those guys in the starting group. This is as good as you can possibly expect from Toronto, and they just didn't take that opportunity. So, yeah, I think it's disappointing. It's disappointing. And the only thing I would say is, at least Fred said after the game, this one's on me. It's not the first time he said that. We've seen him say that multiple times this season. But, like, eventually it's like, how many of these can be on one guy until it's like, you know, the season is where it is, right?
Yeah, and he also, so he hurt his thumb during the game, right? And
yeah, he jammed it. He jammed his left thumb, just on a kind of a nothing play. Blake Griffin came to set the screen. I think he was just trying to get around the screen, and it wasn't even like Blake was like into him or anything like that. But Fred just kind of had his arm out, and it just got caught in the jersey. It happens. Like anyone who's played like basketball, soccer, like it happens fairly often. But you know, of course, I'm sure that affected his shot to some degree. But again, like the results are what the results are.
No, like you said, you know, you don't even need to search through all the Raptors Show episodes. Like you were here saying yesterday that the Raptors are gonna need to hit 10 threes, that they're gonna need to, you know, all the things that we've talked about throughout the season. And you know, I don't think it was any surprise. Like you mentioned, 6 of 33 from 3 last night. Gary Trent Jr. came back and went scoreless in 16 minutes. And again, you can roll the tape to yesterday. You know, you expressed some concern about how every time Gary comes back from an injury, there's been some rust in terms of him getting back into the flow. And I think you saw that yesterday as well. Will Barton had a great game earlier this week and went scoreless yesterday in 14 minutes. And add Malcolm Brogdon, who had 29 points yesterday, to the list of guys who have outscored the entire Raptors bench over the past couple seasons. The Raptors bench at 18 total. We've been tracking this stat for 2 years now.
Is that on the bingo card?
It's not on the bingo. We
should be on the bingo card.
We might bring in a special 1-game play-in tournament bingo card for the Bulls and Raptors next week.
Got you.
And the middle circle might be paid $700 to watch them, because I don't know if you saw, tickets went on sale today.
Oh yeah,
a pre-sale
for the play-in.
Yeah, for the play-in, and I saw some screenshots on Ticketmaster that the level 100 seats are like $692.
Is that including fees, taxes?
It's actually, I believe it's not including taxes and fees.
All right,
maybe they should schedule the play-in tournament in Charlotte.
That might be like $750 at that point.
Yeah,
man.
so just come to 10 live events that we do.
That's more than 10, man.
No, but
you'll get your money's worth on the live event.
But listen, I think the main point that you made, and I think you made it clear on the React pod too, is we've seen this over and over again this season. And we've seen this over and over again on the road. Like I was actually looking last night at the Raptors and the games that they've played on the road since January. And I was trying to find the last time that they had just an impressive road win, because the wins that they've gotten on the road most recently in order. So the 2 wins in Charlotte, obviously, most recently.
Sure, yeah.
Before that, they split in Washington. So they got one in Washington.
Right. That was.
Before that, they won in Detroit. And then before that, you'd have to go back to that critical road trip before the trade deadline where they beat Memphis. Memphis was shorthanded.
No Ja, no Steven Adams, no
Scotty Barnes. Scotty Barnes helped pull that out at the end.
Scotty was great in that one.
Yeah, it was a fourth quarter. You know, that was an impressive fourth quarter for them, but against a shorthanded team. And then before that, Houston, Portland. Like these are teams that obviously are not in the playoff race. So you'd have to go back to January 25th, one of your favorite games of the season when they beat Sacramento, to say that they had to say that they had an impressive road win. And I think even more concerning too, you talk about the trend of them giving away leads in the fourth quarter, playing games close. So if you go back just within the last like 2 months, so the Philly game last week, right? Sixers shoot 77% in the first half. Raptors trail by 24. They pull within 2 in the fourth, and then they lose by 7. At Milwaukee recently, they led heading into the fourth. Brook Lopez scores the first 8 points. in the fourth. They make a 15-2 run. They end up winning by 7. Playing against the Lakers, they were up heading into the fourth. Lakers score 37 points in the fourth and win by 10. At Denver, there's the Scott Foster game. Raptors again led heading into the fourth. Nuggets outscore them 35-25 in the fourth. They win by 5. And then Utah, they were heading into the fourth, and the Jazz scored 39 on them. Outscore them by 19 in the fourth, and they win by 6. And then I went to my favorite, I did a little net ratings check.
Wow, look at this research from Alex, man.
Since February 1st, so if you isolate only road games for the Raptors in clutch time, so everybody knows, I think, clutch time defined by last 5 minutes, a game within 5 points, right?
Yep.
The Raptors have a minus 23.5 net rating on the road in clutch time.
It feels like it, yeah.
Since February 1st. Yeah, it passes the eye test because we have seen this over and over again. The Raptors fight and claw after a slow start, get back into the game, and then ultimately lose it in the fourth. That was exact script last night.
Yeah. That's a great recap, first and foremost. I mean, there was such a degree of predictability to sort of what the Raptors were doing in the fourth quarter offensively, especially down the stretch there. Because, like, as you mentioned, like the Raptors were able to tie it at one point. But it wasn't even like the Celtics were humming on offense, right? I didn't think Jaylen Brown could really get his against OG, which is a testament to OG. Like, not a lot of guys can make a guy like Jaylen Brown struggle on offense. And I didn't think that even when the Celtics were left open, for the most part, they weren't really knocking those down. Eventually, that did hurt the Raptors. But the Raptors actually even won the fourth quarter in this scenario, 21-18. But they didn't really feel like they won anything last night when you think about the offense that was down the stretch. And to be honest, like, man, 3 of those 3 threes for Fred that were missed out of the 11 missed threes for Fred were in the fourth quarter, down the stretch there, including one where this one is seared into my mind. The Raptors are down 5. Pascal has the ball, draws a double team, which he's done his job, makes the right pass out to Fred in rhythm, wide open on the wing, and he misses it. And instead of cutting that to 2 points with under a minute left and setting your defense, instead Boston gets to run off the rebound. Jaylen Brown is a terror in transition, and Precious is just a little bit late with the chase down block. That ended up being a goaltend. So that goes from what should have been a 2-point game to now a 7-point game, and the game is over.
You got to do better, fam.
Yeah, you really do. You really do, right? And, of course, that's where Fred is saying after the game, like, I got to take accountability for this. But, that's where the Raptors struggle. It's not – I mean, it's not that surprising to see the Raptors, shoot in this fashion, right? I mean, even without Gary in the group, they were able to win, but it's not like they won it based on their three-point shooting. And so much of the league nowadays is based on three-point shooting. And we've highlighted this many times, but the Raptors really only have 3 guys that are above average three-point shooters. It's Fred, it's OG, and it's Gary. And none of those 3 guys are having a career year with their shooting. In fact, they're probably lower percentage-wise than on their career. I know Fred is for sure, and Gary's not having a good three-point shooting this season either. And, I think that's one aspect of it. But I also do think the other aspect of this, okay, so yes, you missed some shots, but are there other ways to get better shots, right? Because you have to think that, no matter what, like, obviously three-point shooting is an aspect of the game, but, like, can you create shots elsewhere? And I thought, even post-game, hearing this from Nick, it wasn't great because he talked about how, look, it's the Raptors had a lot of shots rim out and the Celtics had a lot of shots rim in. And to me, it was just like, this sounded like Dwayne Casey saying it's a make or miss league, Doug. Here's the clip. Let's run the clip.
Geez, the in and out score was 18-2 tonight. They had a bunch of them go in and go back in, and we had a bunch of them pop out on the in and out score. So it didn't bounce our way.
Have you heard a coach talk about the in and out score?
No, first of all, with the Bulls and Raptors likely playing next week, and Steph Noh of Sporting News put out some stats today about the 2 teams. So they're both in the bottom 5, the Bulls and the Raptors, in 3-point makes. We're gonna need an in and out sponsorship for that for that Wednesday.
That's
game.
an American. They're not even no in and outs in Toronto. I don't think so.
We're about to see some lots of in and outs next Wednesday at Scotiabank. But
we're talking about in and out score.
Where do I find that stat?
Game 79 of the season.
Where do I find the in and out stats? Listen. No, I don't want to be having this conversation in like game 80 of the season.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, I was so I wanted to hear like an explanation for the game, or at
set
least
the scene though. You were on your scooter as well. You were listening to this on the scooter.
So typically I would listen to the post games the night of. Last night I was just like, I'm gonna do the React Pod and go to and just do something else. I was trying to
self care,
exactly, right?
Self care.
I'm coming to work and I'm like, all right, what can I throw on? I can either throw on the Draymond Green podcast with Pascal Siakam, which would have been the right decision, but I was like, nah. Let me do my job. I'll listen to the post-game press conference. And 5 minutes in, I'm hearing Nick Nurse talk about the in and out score, and I was like, man,
emotional damage.
No, legit, it was the in and out score, man. That's another way of saying make or miss League Doug. That's for sure.
Well, I just think you cannot pin this given what we've seen this season and given what we've seen with the makeup of the roster.
Yeah.
Like this is not a make or miss situation. The Raptors just don't have shooters.
It's a make or miss situation because they miss 75% of the time.
No, the Raptors just don't have shooters, and I also don't want to hear about that. Last night was the second half of a back-to-back and all that, because I heard yesterday, the day before, that the Raptors only have one starter play more than 30 minutes in Charlotte, in that second game in Charlotte. So they were pretty well rested. And to be honest, those Charlotte games were not stressful at all. So, like, there's no excuses for anything that happened last night. Like you mentioned, the Celtics, like, opened the door for the Raptors to just take this game. Celtics, honestly, I don't think care too much about winning this game. I mean, obviously, when you're on the court, you're playing to win, but it's like, this was not a must-win situation for them.
They had Jason Tatum on the sideline eating popcorn in a white T-shirt. Like, you know what I mean? And white T-shirt's important because you know how much effort players put into the games about the outfits and everything.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
This man literally just put on an undershirt and just sat on the bench and ate popcorn. That's how chill they were.
No, the whole season.
They don't care about matching up potentially with the Raptors in the play-in.
No.
They don't feel like we're a tough out. They don't even think we're a tough out. They just think we're just an out, period.
No, straight up. And I think that's the most frustrating part because, you know, if you want to put importance on these games with the playoff seeding, you know, the Raptors didn't show up again. And I think over and over again, they've shown that they play to a particular level of competition and they're not able to play higher than that. So even against a half of or whatever, 3/4 of a Celtics team, you know, that Celtics team with their whatever institutional, you know, knowledge and chemistry and all that stuff, it was better than what the Raptors could put out yesterday.
Fully healthy, who would the Celtics start, right? They start Marcus Smart at point guard.
Yep.
Jaylen Brown at 2, Tatum at 3, Al Horford at 4.
So they're missing 3 starters.
Robert Williams at 5.
Yeah, they were missing 3 starters yesterday.
They were missing 3 starters. But what that would typically mean is that Malcolm Brogdon and Derek White will come off the bench.
Man, what a luxury, man.
What an incredible luxury.
Meanwhile, we got Jeff Dowtin waiting on the bench for a contract.
We got Jeff Dowtin, like, they panned over to him in the broadcast last night. He was just pouting. And I don't think he was pouting because he was upset about the contract, but it was just so funny. They're talking about how, you know, Bobby's going to fly to Boston just to talk about Jeff Dowtin's contract.
Right.
Like, can't that be a phone call? Again, that could be a Zoom call.
Yeah, that could be a Zoom.
You know, that didn't necessarily
Microsoft Teams.
That could be a DocuSign. You know what I mean?
It could be a DocuSign.
Let's save the environment. We need to make that flight. that flight. But, like, again, that is the huge difference. And I think, you know, it's instructive to look at the Celtics, obviously, because they've been a really successful team-building model, right? But not too long ago, last season, they were in this a similar spot where, obviously, they had more talent. There's no denying that. Tatum and Brown are more talented than whoever the Raptors' top 2 are, right? But they were also 500. They're also underperforming. They're also, like, locker room stuff, people talking about each other, all this other stuff. Now, what have they done since turning that around, right? Obviously, they've developed a couple of guys. Right, Robert Williams is definitely developed, and when he's healthy, he's an impact maker out there. But they've also made a point to make additions. Right, they traded a first-round pick to San Antonio as well, but they got Derek White. Derek White's really good.
Yeah, that's
really
a
good. Best shot blocking guard.
I think they got 2 6 man of the year candidates. I think Derek White has started a lot of games.
They got to make a 7th man of the league for Malcolm Brogdon because he's the 7th man of the league.
Meanwhile, we're trying to find 7 for next Wednesday, man.
Then in the offseason, of course, you know, obviously Brogdon even talked about it. He's like, well, Toronto was also interested in me, but I wanted to go for a championship. Obviously, Boston's closer. Clearly, he was right.
Made the right call.
But they've reloaded with those type of players. In the meantime, they've added even more shooting to a team that already was pretty good on shooting, right? And even like Muscala, for example. Like I'm not really crying about Mike Muscala, but he was instantly our best shooting big. There's no doubt about that, right? So they've added more shooting. They've added more guard depth. And obviously, their main guys, their main talents have, you know, made a step too, but they've increased the overall scope of the team. And I think for the Raptors, when you look back on, you know, their timeline as well, yes, they've added Jakob Poeltl, which I think is a good addition, right? I think it fits with the roster. I don't know why he only played 23 minutes last night, even though he was a plus 10.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask you about that because Precious did close the game.
Yeah.
What did you think about that decision of Nick going with Precious down the stretch?
I mean, Precious was playing well on one hand. I do think that Yak could have played with a little bit more energy.
Okay.
Right. I do think those are 2 areas where Precious outplayed him. But at the same time, I do think that you know, there's got to be ways to find ways to put your 5 best players on the court. Last night would have been an example where I wouldn't even mind if both of those guys on the floor at the same time.
Who do you sit in that scenario then?
I don't see why Christian Koloko had to play 6 minutes last night. And that was largely with the bench group. I think that was the first 6 minutes of the second quarter where the Raptors bench wasn't scoring well. Obviously, when Gary and Will Barton give you 0 points combined, that's going to really struggle, right? But, like, at least the Celtics weren't scoring either. And I would credit Koloko a little bit. He had a couple of good shot contests, no doubt. But we know he's a 0 on offense right now, especially against this team in Boston. And then after about 3 minutes, I'm like, okay, the Raptors are like down like 2-3 points. Like, we survived. Let's bring in the starters. No, the starters are sitting there on the sideline, right, just waiting to check in. And Nick's like, I'm going to wait for a stoppage of play. There's no mechanism for me to stop a play in the middle of a game, right? I got to save my timeouts. By the way, you know what the Raptors had at the end of the game? 2 timeouts left. And they get nothing out of that final play where they were down 4. So whatever. They had turns out they had a timeout to give. But regardless, even if you put that aside, because that's hindsight, you had them play 6 minutes with that group, and you let the bench, who were okay in terms of keeping it steady, to then letting the Celtics get up 12 before Nick finally called timeout, got the guys in. And that's what created the separation. From that point on, where the Raptors were consistently down for a lot of it, eventually they did come back to tie for like literally 10 seconds before Malcolm Brogdon pulled up for 3 and put them back up.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't know. But my point is, you can bring Yak in. You just, I think there's other ways where, obviously this is aside from the coaching itself, which we can talk about. But like, you know, the Celtics have done a great job of replenishing that group and adding exactly the kind of pieces that you need to make them competitive. And not just competitive, but competitive at the highest levels. And I think the one thing I really am the most envious about watching the Celtics is the high IQ players they have coming off. Like, whoever comes in, they're smart players. They consistently make the right plays. They make plays from positions where they might even aren't ahead, right? Like you saw last night, the amount of loose balls that the Celtics got to, right? The amount of times where they were in an outside position and they were still able to chase down the ball. The amount of times guys were able to sort of play obviously straight up man-to-man defense, you know, make every shot tough for the Raptors, which they did a great job of, but also playing help defense at timely moments to block a guy like OG at the rim or to throw off, you know, a play here or there. And, you know, it's my overall impression is just like they play solid. They have obviously shooting, they have talent. And even a game where, you know, nothing is going right for the Celtics and they have a lot of guys out, they're still able to come out and just, you know, hold on to a win here. So, yeah, I hate this. You know me. I really dislike the Celtics personally. On a personal fan level, I dislike the Celtics ever since Kevin Garnett got on all fours and taunted Jose Calderon.
That long.
I'm still not over that. Or when Paul Pierce just like, you know, did the Draymond Green kick to Chris Bosh on a dunk.
Oh man.
So I've disliked this franchise.
These are core memories.
These are core memories. I have a core memory of Eddie House in game 82 of the season dropping 30-plus points on the Raptors in like 2008 or something like that. But you have to give them props. They have built the team the right way, and you see the difference in quality in a game like last night.
Yeah, man. Show some Mike Muscala. Luke Cornett, a little sky hook on us too, I think, in the fourth quarter.
Did he? Oh my God, I must have blacked out for that one.
I was waiting for him I was waiting for Luke Cornett to do the jump block. You know how he does that jump block thing, but he was like, I'm just gonna let these guys miss their threes.
Well, even him.
Honestly though.
Even him. Like
even a player like a Blake Griffin like has a role to play there. Like not a huge role, but I think the point that you highlighted is one of the major glaring flaws with the Raptors this season is the significant drop off when you go from the starters to the bench, right? Like we've seen this over and over again, and on really good teams, and we've seen some really good teams here in Toronto very recently.
Sure.
You don't see those drop offs, and for the coaches to have to manage that every night is tough too.
Absolutely,
because you don't know what you're getting, and we thinking ahead now to like the Raptors being in this, you know, one game must win scenario. That's going to be, I think, one of the most fascinating subplots is to see how Nick handles those rotations and minutes, right? When it comes to next week.
Well, I mean, here's the thing too. Obviously, because the Raptors play the Celtics again on Friday. I was thinking about like, okay, look, we could put aside the negativity. Obviously, that was not a good performance, but can the Raptors somehow perform better in the rematch, right? And of course, everyone's going to look a little bit silly trying to talk about this. And I'm recognizing that because of the fact that, again, all these factors went into it last night and they still didn't win. But, like, what can the Raptors do better? And I do think that for Nick, in the rematch here, he probably needs to think about shuffling the rotation so that he doesn't have his bench versus Boston's bench, right? Here's the thing. Boston missed guys last night, but they were still able to keep their bench rotation intact, right? Because they put Sam Hauser and Muscala in the group. So they essentially promoted third stringers to the first lineup to sort of balance that out. Now, the first lineup didn't do great, but ultimately they held mostly even. Now that's on the Raptors starters. They needed to play better against the Celtics starters last night. But what they were able to do then is keep their bench going against the Raptors bench and their bench torch the Raptors bench. And of course, there's differences there in terms of quality. Malcolm Brogdon, obviously, like for example, the Raptors don't have a guy coming off the bench who can run the offense or like really create the offense. They have guys who can finish. They have guys who can pick up the scraps in terms of offensive rebounding and runouts. They don't have a guy who can create offense. Even when they play the second unit, they just ask a starter to create all the offense for the second unit, right? So it's like Scotty will create offense for the second unit, or OG will create offense for the second unit, or Fred or Pascal. Like these are the 4 guys that just essentially escalate their usage with that bench. The Celtics don't necessarily have to do that. It's not like they go to the bench and they're like, all right, Grant Williams, now you're running the show, right? They never say that. Or like Blake Griffin, you're running the show. They give to a guy like Brogdon who can actually do that, though, and really sort of extend that group. So I think Nick definitely needs to shuffle the rotation so that he doesn't play out his bench unit as much as he did last time. And I also do think that for the starting group, like, you know, you have to find ways to get your guys a little bit more open on some of these possessions, because the Celtics, not only do they do a great job of defending one-on-one, but they also do a great job of switching and even providing timely help. So I think there are opportunities to look at the film, look at a couple of things that they did. You know, they had Robert Williams on OG for a lot of those possessions as well, right? Are there ways to capitalize on that? There should be some advantage to be created there with the center guarding a wing. Again, these are the things that, you know, the coaching staff and the players need to be working on tonight in practice and also tomorrow, you know, when they play the Celtics again, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I think too, the other thing. So like we mentioned up top, so the Raptors have clinched the 9th spot. Like they can't fall down to 10th.
Oh, thank goodness.
And
thank goodness.
Yeah,
I was worried about the 9th spot. Man.
No balloons. Wow. No balloons.
No balloons.
Still.
All right.
Yeah, can't access that budget at the moment.
Got you.
But okay, so the outside chance for them to get to 8th is like Atlanta has to lose their last 2 games.
That's not happening.
And the Raptors have to win
Don't they play Detroit tomorrow?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But pretty much they're locking the 9th, because then I guess the other question goes to me is like, you know, since these games are essentially, you know, meaningless now, you know, is there any benefit to sit some of the guys out and get them ready for next Wednesday? Because I'm just thinking about like Fred hurting his thumb yesterday. I seen like Scotty grabbing at, you know, different various limbs on different possessions. We know OG's just coming back from that ankle sprain. So maybe not for tomorrow's game, but I'm thinking for Sunday's game. If that game is completely meaningless, I wonder if the starters just play like the first quarter or something and then they just sit. Because there's really no point in playing them at that point, right?
I suppose, but I also do feel kind of weird about resting guys who are still trying to play for something. Like if your positioning is locked, like we've seen this with the Raptors
that's what I'm
in the
saying.
previous years.
If your positioning is locked by Sunday, if they're locked into the 9th.
No, man, I want to at least see a good win against the Nazis. I don't care.
Honestly,
I don't
suffered
care.
injury in game 82.
You know what? I'm Dwayne Casey in this situation. I don't care. Fred, go chase over that screen against Bam Adebayo.
Oh, God.
The Hawks, by the way, play the Sixers tomorrow. My bad. That is very much not the Pistons.
Well, but Sixers might be resting too because they're locked into the seeding.
Sure.
Basically, most of the seeding is locked in at this point. So might be a lot of meaningless games.
But no, I honestly, not to be like a, you know, strict Asian dad, which I feel like is my overall vibe.
No, this sounds
life.
very strict though.
But you guys have not earned the right to rest game 82, man. I'm sorry, man.
Asian dad. Let's hope no one gets hurt. Let's hope no one gets hurt driving in on Thanasis and whoever else.
Chairman Lou. Legit, man.
Lastly, so you did briefly mention this with Jeff Dowtin. So yesterday, you know, Nick mentioned that Bobby Webster, general manager, was going to fly in today, and they were going to discuss Jeff Dowtin's two-way contract situation. And Michael Grange did just report as well that barring any last-minute reversals, that the sense that he's getting is that Jeff Dowtin will not be getting his two-way contract converted, or at least there's been no momentum towards that happening at this point. And I believe the deadline is 5 p.m. today.
Did you tell me Bobby just flew there to say no? Is that what you're telling me? Our friend of the show, Robert Webster, did
Robert Webster. Things are down bad when we call in a Robert Webster.
Wow, trust me, we've heard him call different things in the last week or so. We can't say on the show, man.
So there's your Jeff Dowtin watch. Kawhi watch was more fun.
So I don't understand, though. Why do we put him in on a two-way deal in the first place?
I don't know.
Right? Because you bring in guys, the two-way is structured so that you have a test route. Like it's a demo for a player, essentially, right? And if they can contribute to your program, obviously you're not expecting them to become stars. No one becomes a star out of that two-way, at least not yet. But you demonstrate if you can contribute towards the program. And to me, I feel like Jeff has done that. And So why not convert him? In fact, I think this roster spot was open. They did cut Wancho, and that spot was open, and then decided to go with Will Barton, right? Whose decision was that? Because, like, no offense to Will Barton, he was obviously brought in as some sort of piece to sort of upgrade the roster here, but, like, you know, that seems like that was Jeff Dowtin's spot, and it feels like they decided even back in, when was that happening? Like February? Maybe, like, yeah, probably February, that spot's now going to disappear, and we're going to go with him. But the thing is also, like, then why did you bring in Joe Wieskamp? And you sign him to a multi-year deal. Of course, you sign him to multi-year deals. It's like options, stuff like that. You're not really committed to that. But, like, still, you brought in Joe Wieskamp under no pressure at all. And again, like, I just don't understand. Jeff has contributed more than Jeff, or more than Joe Wieskamp, and more than Will Barton. So now we are just going to do developing with the player who maybe you'd say his upside is limited, but he was able to produce for you in small moments. You don't have actual quality backup guard depth, which we've seen all season and last season. Why is he not getting converted?
Yeah, no,
I don't understand this.
No,
and you can't tell me the Raptors are afraid to cut a guy. Champagny was cut this year. Another guy who was promising and developing and whatever. I mean, it's not like he's caught on anywhere else of significance, although he is in Boston right now. But the point is, that was a guy that you tried to invest some development reps into. That didn't go anywhere. You brought in Joe outside of that one game where he hit 3 threes, and we lost, by the way, to the Timberwolves. Not Joe's fault, but still, he got the Wheezy nickname. Haven't seen him since. You know, you have Will Barton bringing it. Like, what are we doing? I thought this is a developmental organization. Like, there's it's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things, but I think, what does it indicate? What does it say to the players that you're going to try to pitch to come to your roster next? Like, hey, come to Toronto because it's a development organization. We'll give you a two-way, and if you do well in your limited minutes, you know, we'll convert you and bring you in on a deal. Did that happen with Jeff? And maybe they'll say, well, look, listen, we're not going to sign you for this specific year, but as soon as the year is over, you know, when it comes to summer league or for next year, like, we can sign you to a contract in the offseason. You might say, like, look, it's not going to matter in the play-in or even in the playoff if Jeff Dowtin's there or not. Maybe you'd have to really have some trust, I think, with the player and the agent in this situation, but I just don't understand it.
Yeah, no, something just isn't adding up here, because I think leading up to this, everyone just assumed that his contract was going to be converted. And I know Michael Grange wrote an article yesterday about this too, and how this might again signal that something is, you know, the front office and the coach is not in line with this, because, like you mentioned, all the things that you said, like, Jeff Dowtin has been part of the rotation, he's been playing, and you would assume a player like that, based on what he's shown, would you know, this would be a no-brainer. And for this news to come out that it looks like he's not going to get his contract converted, it's just, I don't know, something's missing here. Something's just feels off about this, you know?
It feels like I mean, again, like, it feels like the O'Shea Brissett situation. It feels like the Utah situation. Like, Utah was another case where it was like, you brought him in on a two-way, and then he was able to contribute enough for you. Or I think he was in the end of the roster. Maybe it wasn't a two-way. I think he was a little bit too old for that. I'm not really sure. But the idea is you bring in a guy late, and then you get him some reps, and then eventually you keep him around. Like, yeah, okay. Also, what did they want Jeff to do in his minutes, by the way? More than what he did. Like, I'm not saying he did everything perfect, but, like, he had limited minutes. He came in and played defense, kept the ball moving.
Yeah.
At a position where it was like, did you trust at the end of the day Jeff Dowtin more or Malachi Flynn more? Because clearly, based on the minutes, Jeff Dowtin was playing ahead of Malachi.
Yeah, I think of two.
Or Delano, for example.
I think of two, the Masai presser after the trade deadline, when he talked about how they need to give Malachi and Delano more minutes. And that obviously hasn't happened. I mean, Malachi's got, like, brief stretches where he's played, but
he's gotten minutes in third unit blowout situations.
In like very desperate games when Nick's just putting him in there for like 6 minutes. Anyways, you know, if it's not Jeff Dowtin, then, you know, I don't know, man. Just please find a couple guards this summer.
Yeah, again, at the end of the day, I'm not saying that, like, this is going to make or break the Raptors season. It's not a devastating thing, but to me, it's just like, I don't understand when you list out the whole idea of sort of why you do this practice in the first place, that you don't sort of see it through to the final part.
But again,
and it's not like the Raptors have a roster of 15 guys. It's like, man, I don't know who do I cut on this roster? Like,
it's pretty easy.
Like, this ain't the Boston Celtics being like, oh man, I might have to cut somebody on this roster and all this. No, like, you know, the Raptors have guys. No offense to the guys, but they have guys that they cannot continue to roll with. But
well, I think this goes back to, I think this again goes back to, like, we need to hear from someone in the organization about this. Just so we don't have to speculate, and, you know, like,
we're gonna have another live show with Bobby Webster.
No, but it's like,
hey, Bobby, why didn't you convert Jeff Dowtin?
I know it's just Jeff Dowtin Jr. It shows his family, but it's like, Like, I don't know if this is a talking point, then maybe Bobby can just speak on it, or somebody can just give us an answer on this. Right?
But listen, are we a development organization or not?
No, like I'm completely with you. I'm completely with you on
Yeah.
that. This is very inconsistent.
Yes.
With everything that
Yeah.
they're trying to sell, right? So,
Mhm.
so I guess we'll see Jeff in a hoodie tomorrow then. Does Jeff? He's still eligible.
Is he legal to? Is this legal for him to
illegal.
just?
This guy wants him arrested. This guy wants him deported.
No.
What's going on, man? This guy said, "What is his immigrant status?
No, I'm
is
just
he
saying.
legal? Is he an illegal alien now?
No, that's not what I'm saying
In
at
NBA
all.
arenas,
Please,
what are you doing?
We are on national television.
No.
No,
I get what you're saying because I did
If
find
he's
it
not on the
strange.
team, then what is he? What are you saying?
But he was with the. But he was with them. He was allowed last night, right?
Yeah.
Like he was there
Yeah.
when legally. I don't want to use the word legally. When technically his contract expired.
I
I
guess.
don't know. Does he have to?
Maybe similar to the Jordan Lloyd situation for the 2019 playoffs, where he wasn't a member of the Raptors anymore or something like
Right.
that, because two ways weren't eligible to play. I don't know. I'm not sure, to be honest, but
Anyways,
okay, maybe
that
we have
was
to have
our-
another live show with Bobby Webster.
Yeah, that was our
I
Jeff.
suppose
That,
that's what we need, man.
that concludes
Hey, man,
the end of Jeff Down Watch.
I hope you get a shot somewhere else, or you got a shot continuing with the Raptors next season. But unfortunately, for the last couple of games here, you're not going to be here. But well, that's a good spot for a break. I've been your host, Will Lou, and you've been listening to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Welcome back to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, Wayne Liu. I continue to be joined by producer and co-host Alex Wong. What you got for us, Alex?
Oh, it was,
Are you going to force us to talk about the CBA?
well, I'm going to show you magic. Let's show you how to make a fun CBA conversation. But first, have you been watching the other basketball that's going on? Lots of races happening for the seedings in the West.
Yeah, of course.
I was catching a little bit of the Lakers-Clippers game yesterday. Seems like everybody's trying to avoid that 5 spot because Phoenix is locked in to the number 4 seed.
How much stock do you put into the idea that the Suns haven't lost with KD yet? Now, obviously, he's been injured for a lot of those.
Not much, just because you're looking at I look at the teams that they've played, right?
Right.
Have they been in like a heavyweight match against like
OKC
really
was the
team?
closest to that.
Yeah.
And by the way, KD just like money on threes.
Oh man,
in that game, it was like not even a question if he was going to make some of those plays. So.
No, the thing is too, and I heard Brian Windhorst, friend of the program, peddling this stat.
Really?
On another podcast.
That's another one-way relationship right there, man.
I know.
Jeez. Forget 2 ways. That's a one-way.
No 2-way contracts with Windhorst here.
Yep.
We've been trying for 2 years.
We have?
He says that KD has like a 950 winning percentage in the last 4 months.
Oh,
dating back to like Brooklyn.
Because Brooklyn had that like
yeah, but it also ignores the fact that KD was out for 2 of those 4 months though.
Yeah.
Like that's a real cherry pick stat, man.
Yeah, it's one of those stats.
He's like, KD's a winner. No, but
remember in the offseason when we were talking about do we trade for KD? And now we're talking about do they convert Jeff Dowtin's contract?
Oh my God, how far we done fell.
Man.
Yeah, no,
if you can't fall harder.
If you can engage me in 12 minutes of NBA convo, you may escape my segment on the CBA. Let's see how you do, Will.
Yeah.
So the 3 teams in the West right now that could potentially finish 5th: Clippers, Warriors, Lakers. And there's going to be a bunch of jostling with these last couple. Which team, if you're Phoenix, which team do you think would be the toughest opponent?
First off, I don't think Phoenix really wants to play any of those 3 teams.
Yeah.
I think for Phoenix, the matchup that seems really bad for me is the Warriors because of how little continuity that the Suns have. Clearly, obviously, having made a huge in-season trade, but also the fact that KD's been out for a lot of it. Like, I just wouldn't want to see the Warriors with all of their continuity in the first round. Right. I think for the Suns, that's a team where I don't really worry about them getting I don't worry as much about them getting out of the first round with any of those 3 opponents between the 2 LA teams and the Warriors, but especially that Warriors team, that is really tricky. I think for the Suns, they're going to build more experience together as the playoffs go on. It's going to have to be like a make it up on the fly situation. They obviously have the talent to do it. They're also going to be really perimeter oriented and not going to go hard to the basket as much, and they're not going to be able to hit the offensive glass that hard. I feel like those are ways you want to attack the Warriors. So definitely I would not want to see the Warriors in the first round. I probably wouldn't want to see the Lakers that much either, just based on the fact that the Lakers obviously have been playing a lot better. There is still definitely large question marks there. I still don't think LeBron's close to at his best. Even LeBron James' feet have not been able to bring the LeBron James back.
Did you hear recently after wins now in the Lakers locker room, teammates, as LeBron has been doing his post-game interviews, have been making goat noises in the background.
You have made me aware of this, and I'm serious. Like it'll be like LeBron will be like, yeah, our rebounding really picked up in the second half, and in the background you just hear like Austin Reeves being like, bah! Like it's unbelievable.
Apparently
man.
this was started by D'Angelo Russell.
Got you.
Yeah. So you're saying okay, the Lakers.
Yeah.
I mean, even though LeBron's not, clearly he's not fully healthy, even with the LeBron James of feet helping him out. I don't know if there's a good opponent there for Phoenix. Like those are all 3 really hard first round outs. You could say the Clippers because Paul George's injury status is up in the air. Yeah, no, I think that's probably the team that you would look to face because I do feel like the Clippers, even though they have obviously great talent and of course they have Kawhi, that probably is the team that you would want to go up against. I think that's kind of 2 really good jump shooting teams going against each other. And yeah, I mean, look, based on the last time, obviously the Kawhi. Wow. Yo, the best part about that clip is it can apply to any conversation that we're having.
You can play that clip until May 1st, and then afterwards, it's going to take a different context. Derek.
Oh God.
No, I'm kidding. You can play that whenever, man. You have my forever. You have my forever permission. But no, I mean, I think for the Clippers, like that would be a great matchup to see, like for us as fans. I think that's probably the one I really want to see the most. KD versus Kawhi. I mean, have they had like a one-on-one, like both at their like peak level matchup against each other. That was supposed to happen in 2019, obviously, but it obviously didn't.
happened for one quarter in the finals.
Right.
Unfortunately. No, but I mean, if you frame it that way, I mean, you're either going to get KD versus Steph, KD versus Kawhi, or KD versus LeBron in the first round.
You know, Adam Silver is just giggling.
Adam
He's
Silver's
just giggling to himself, man.
No, but I think the Phoenix thing will be so interesting because I cannot think of another example of a team that's just going to go into the playoffs having played like 8 games together.
Yeah.
And they're just going to figure it out on the fly.
The weirdest thing is I feel like they would have the Suns would have rather faced the number 1 seeded Denver Nuggets than any of those 3 teams in the first round.
It's true though. And I think
it's a weird year, man.
No, the standings feel kind of inverted because teams are looking at Denver, looking at Memphis and Sacramento, the top 3 teams.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of teams want to end up in that 6th spot to play Sacramento. And my working theory is, I think if the Lakers end up in the 6, which very likely they could, I think the Lakers are going to make the conference finals, man.
Yeah,
like
I can see that. I mean,
because
sure,
everybody's not going to pick Sacramento because of their defense and experience.
They should. That's a really good reason to. And also, by the way, I think that like the Lakers have the kind of size to really neutralize.
Yes, like
Sabonis in down low, and if you can neutralize that kind of leverages out a lot of their opportunities to shoot from the wing too. So.
Yeah, Sabonis might not be in the bonus in that case, but it's like you get in that 3-6 bracket, and then you get to play probably Memphis in the second round. Like a Sacramento Memphis. To get to the conference finals, that is probably the cleanest path for any of these teams to get to the conference finals.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if the Lakers are in the conference finals. They're playing this new like upgraded roster. It just feels like a much better team.
Yeah, I mean, I do have some question in terms of like, okay, are they still able to shoot? I'm still not sold on their shooting, but that's not like the feature of their team. The feature of their team is how much pressure they put on the rim. LeBron, AD, even Austin Reeves is a really good foul drawer and stuff like that. When we saw one of his best games against Toronto, obviously when the Raptors had that game in LA. So yeah, no, I'm really excited to see just the Western Conference playoffs. I'm actually more excited to see that than the East because I feel like in the Eastern Conference, like outside of probably what's going to be Sixers, or not Sixers, Cavs versus
Cavs Knicks
in the first round.
That's going to be fun.
Is there going to be another good first round series? Like I'm looking forward to the second round. For sure, in the Eastern Conference, but the first round, is there going to be an interesting matchup that you see?
No, that's a really good point. I mean, I'm looking at the 3-6 between the Sixers and the Nets. I don't think that's going to be much of a series.
Again, that's going to be a really good opportunity for them to have a chill first round. Because no offense to the Nets, but I really think that the Sixers, if they play their game, they should beat them in no more than 5 games.
Well, I think that's the other thing that people maybe don't think about as much when it comes to the play-in tournament format too, is like a lot of these teams are in the playoff proper. They're going to get the whole week off next week, right? So then you get the week off.
Yep.
And then assuming you have a short series in the first round, you're really chilling for like 2 weeks, right? And then you get to, rest some of your players, like get them some extra rest because like James Harden's been dealing with this injury, Achilles, I think, and things like that. But yeah, the second round I think is going to be way more interesting. But yeah, I think too is like I look at the 2 number 1 seeds. So like Milwaukee's locked up the number 1 seed in the East. Denver's got the number 1 seed in the West. Like Milwaukee's got a pretty clear path, I would say, to the conference finals.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're gonna play the number 8.
You should, by the way, when you're the number 1 seed.
But for Denver, they don't have that.
No.
Because Denver is looking at Phoenix or whoever beats Phoenix in the second round.
Yeah.
And I don't even know
Denver's
if they're
looking at a tough matchup even in the first round. No offense, but
Yeah, but I don't. I don't think a lot of people are going to be picking Denver to come out of the West. Just because
I mean their play is struggling recently too. I mean like last night for example, I know Jokic has been in and out, and even the
Oh,
whole like Nuggets as a group haven't really been playing
in and
great.
out. Copyright Nick Nurse.
Oh yeah. What's the in and out?
Copyright that.
Yo man, forget Raptors giving you 50 burgers, man. Nick Nurse giving you in and out burgers.
That's wild.
I can't believe it. He really said in and out score.
But the Nuggets, like they have been struggling.
They have been struggling recently, man. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, I guess because no matter who comes out of the plane, right? Like, even let's say for example, we get Miami winning against the Hawks in the 7-8, which is no guarantee. And they play against the Boston Celtics. Do you feel like they're gonna give the Celtics that same kind of like 7-game?
I don't
knock it out.
I think Jimmy's probably gonna take a game from that series, but I mean, even look at the way we saw Boston like yesterday. Even
they
with
added
the
more
shorthand.
depth too, more guards.
Boston, to me, Milwaukee, Boston, and even Philly are just on another level.
Yeah, it's very clear to me.
I think Miami is just based on reputation at this point.
For sure. They're not even playing great basketball, even heading down the stretch here. Let's say if one of Atlanta, Toronto, or Chicago goes up against Milwaukee, do they have a chance? Like, maybe not a chance to make it a tough series, but like, can they even? There's any chance of an upset with those three guys?
Well, you've seen the. I think you played a clip from Reggie Miller too recently.
Yeah.
How he was hyping up. Oh, nobody wants to see the Raptors. Nick Nurse is a championship coach. There's 2 out of 18 guys on this team with championship experience. Again, the Raptors are being talked about too. I think by the U.S. media just based on reputation. From years ago.
I think the Raptors look like a really, really tough opponent on paper, right? Because you're like, they got all those wings and they're going to really lock down on defense. And, obviously they have all-stars and guys like that. But I think when you see them in practice and you see like, okay, here's the second unit. Chris Boucher's bringing the ball up off a rebound. He's going to input it to Precious Achiuwa in the post. Precious is not going to take his opportunity there. He's going to swing it back out. They're going to run a pick and roll. And they're going to try to get the ball the other side, but they're going to go right back to Precious in the post in the exact same spot, and he takes a jab step mid-range jumper like Melo style with 7 seconds left of the clock, and he misses it, and the other team breaks the other way off the rebound. Once you see it happen versus on paper, you'll understand like what people in Toronto have also seen out this group.
Yeah, man.
Practice.
Damn.
Man,
I kept telling myself these last couple months that when the play-in tournament comes, I'm going to be excited, and can't lie.
No, I'll be hyped for that one playing game for sure. So it's going to be us versus the Bulls, and of course we'll have lots of time to preview this.
Yes.
In fact, we're already lining up interviews.
Yeah, we'll
on
have
the Chicago side.
Cool previews next week.
But
we basically have a week to think about the Bulls, to think about the play-in demon Patrick Beverley. You did say a couple weeks ago that it's the Bulls are going to win the play-in at Scotiabank, and then he's going to jump right in front of Matt Devlin.
Oh, yeah.
That is now officially in play.
Oh, Matt. Get ready, man. Get ready, man. When he does that, pants him.
You know what? I got to tip
Push him off the table. Don't let him stand on your turf, Matt.
I got to tip my headband to you, man. You escaped the CBA allegations.
I was willing to talk about whatever you wanted.
So good.
To not talk CBA.
I want to add in one more thing before you wrap up, just to let you know.
Yep.
So the NBA, I don't know if you know, some of their game-worn jerseys go on auction, like online. Like you can purchase them. The money I'm sure goes to like charitable, funds and things like that. I was browsing on that site yesterday, and the game-worn jersey from the slam dunk contest of Jericho Sims is available right now. And the latest bid was like $300.
That's worth it.
So I'm just letting you know.
Man.
I would bid on that if it came with the paper.
I would bid on it. Honestly, I would bid just $300 on that piece of ripped paper that says 50. Yeah. But anyway, we're running out of time. Thanks everyone for listening. I've been your host, Willie, and you've been listening to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Thanks once again, our producer and co-host, Alex Wong, our board producer, Derek Brandell, and Jennifer Olnick for helping on the YouTube stream. We will be back to talk about the Raptors tomorrow.
Want to sell your old phone? Well, the longer you wait, the less it may be worth.